Hey guys, Jen with JCT Rustic Homestead, and I'm trying to get dinner together. We're going to do a beef roast, and I wanted to bring you along simply because I just thought of something amazing, and I thought the world should know. Okay, so my roast is currently in the crock pot. It's like a 3 or 4 pound roast. And we won't eat all of it at one time, but we'll have leftovers for lunches, or sometimes I shred it up and make a gravy with the leftover juice, and we can put it with mashed potatoes and stuff. It's kind of amazing. You know, like a hot pot roast plate or something that you would get in a diner. These are my potatoes. I'm just going to throw them in like this. I'm not even going to bother cutting them up or peeling them. They will cook just fine because they'll be in the crock pot several hours. And then I have my carrots. I did peel those, but I'm just going to cut off the ends. And then I'm just going to cut them up a little bit, like in about half. That way they're a little easier to work with once they're in the crock pot. And then if you guys, the recipe that I have, I started out from a friend that she is a good cook, and she would take like a packet of Hidden Valley Ranch, a packet of Lipton French onion soup mix, and a packet of brown gravy. And I don't always think to grab those things when I'm at the store. So I took a DIY recipe, and for each of those things, I combined it, and then I decided like if I could cut back on the salt because we're not big salt people, or if some ingredient from the size of my roast was just a little too much. But I decided to use fresh garlic today because I like garlic and I need to use it up. It's starting to sprout in the cupboard on me. And I'm going to use these. There's 4 cloves here, but in any recipe that calls for like a clove or 3 cloves or something like that, you just got to decide how much you want to use, because like this is a teeny little 1 clove. This is a huge clove that I would almost consider that 2. So you can kind of see the size difference and decide how much garlic you really want for your recipe. And the end's a little, I guess that'll come out in my press. If you don't know how to use garlic and you don't want to chunk, I encourage you to go find a garlic press or mincer, and you just put your pieces here in the plunger and then press down on it and watch it, if I can get it to focus. It'll come, see it's coming out almost like the Play-Doh thing. And then I just use a little scraper that's in the handle, and I scrape it off in my bowl. I'm not going to do it right here. I'll do it over my crock pot with my roast. So I just put that in there. This bigger clove, I'm just going to kind of cut so it fits in the press a little easier. And you can see here how it's already started sprouting in the middle, or maybe you can't. Depends on if the thing will focus. And I just put it in there. I guess it's a little too much, but I'm going to press this into my crock pot real quick. And when you're cleaning it, since it came through all of those little holes on the bottom, this is a Pampered Chef one, and the little piece has a scraper end right there, and then it has the teeth. So I can just fit it into the teeth, and the stuff pops up, scrape it out, throw it in the compost pile, and away we go. Now, like I said, I took DIY recipes for Hidden Valley Ranch, the powdered dressing, Lipton onion soup packet mix and brown gravy mix. And I wrote them all down, and then I combined them, and I decided what ingredients I needed to cut back on, because there was like 3 tablespoons of onion powder. I don't need 3 tablespoons of onion powder with my roast. So this is kind of what I came up with, and I will link the recipe to the blog. So if you think you want to try this recipe, feel free to follow the link and print it out on the blog. And the other thing that I am so excited about is, you know, the blender bottles that you get when you're on a diet or a health food kick, and then they gradually migrate to the back of the cupboard. Instead of me putting my dry ingredients in like a container and then whisking it and getting stuff everywhere, I thought I'll just put it in my blender bottle and combine it that way. Okay, so for my recipe, like I said, I'll link this in the description. I put a 1/4 cup of flour already in here. That kind of helps like make it less watery, kind of absorb some of the moisture, especially if you're going to turn it into a gravy. And then all the rest of my spices, I have beef bouillon. And this is the kind I'm using. If somebody has another suggestion, I'd be interested to know, because this has a lot of sodium in it. And when I made the roast the last time, it was too salty for me. And I think this was part of the reason. Otherwise, I like the beef flavored base. I didn't want the cubes. I don't like having to dissolve them. And once again, there's a lot of sodium in there. So I'm going to try to do some more research, but every time I look for another broth base, or bouillon, there's a lot of sodium, and I need to figure out something else. And then I put, once again, more parsley. I never knew I was going to use so much parsley, and that's why I'm putting it in the garden. Garlic powder or minced garlic. You saw me do that. Onion powder. And I did put a scant 2 tablespoons in there. When you see the recipe, you can decide how much you really want to put in. 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup of onion flakes. I already put those in the crock pot because I don't need to put it through my blender bottle. It just isn't necessary. Dill. I only had something called dill weed, which I'm assuming is the same thing, because it kind of is a weed anyway. Pepper, just regular black pepper. Paprika, dash of cayenne, and the pepper and the paprika were both in the ranch mix and I believe the gravy mix recipe. And then some celery seed. And I want to tell you guys, if you don't have all this stuff, that's fine. Either leave it out if you want to use a recipe and see how you like it, or each of the packets at our store are about like 50 cents to $1. So for $3, you could make this. But my thing is, 1, remembering to get the packets, and 2, at the end of the day, doing it this way is cheaper for me. Yes, it's expensive initially to purchase each of the seasonings, but after a while, it's cheaper for me to use my own seasonings. And if I'm pulling them from the garden, then it's even cheaper. But, you know, like this brand is, I think I probably got it on sale. And if I didn't, it's still like $3 to $5 for this container. You know, the Great Value brand is maybe $1, maybe $2 at the most, and they're not, you know, as good a quality. But, you know, so the bottles themselves are kind of expensive when you add all of them up. But don't be afraid to cut back on something, or just get the packets pre-made, the beef gravy, the Lipton onion soup mix, and the dry ranch dressing for probably a couple bucks total. And maybe grab a thing of onion powder or parsley, you know, grab a couple at a time until you build your spice cabinet. All right, so I have my blender bottle full of all my spices except for the minced onion and the dried minced onion and the garlic. If I wasn't doing fresh garlic, I would have put my garlic powder in here. And then I just have about 2 cups of water in this thing. I'm not sure the total amount of water I'm going to use for my roast. I bring it up to at least half, if not barely covering the roast part of it, and the potatoes and the carrots will steam until they're cooked. That's just kind of how the crock pot works. But if you'll notice, like, if you can see it, it's kind of bubbling from the air pockets. And the reason why I whisk it with the water is because you know how you get like that glob of onion powder or garlic powder or something like that. That's what I'm trying to avoid by using the blender bottle. So I'm just going to stick my lid on, make sure it's tight and the top is on, and just mix it, and then see how the flour definitely will like clump up in the bottle. You can't really see that through a video, but you just keep mixing it like you would a shake. And then I can pour this directly on my roast, and then I'll top it off with regular water after that until it's barely covering. So there's my roast, my potatoes, my carrots, my minced garlic, and my minced onion, and then I'm just going to pour my blender bottle seasoning mix with water. And it's not quite where I want the water level to be, so I will top it off with a little more water. And then, like I said, the potatoes and the carrots will just kind of steam until they're done, and they'll be fine. I've done this several times and they're fine. Put the lid on. I'm going to put it on high because we don't have as many hours until supper, and just leave it, set it and forget it, I think they say, and we'll have supper. Thanks, guys. Oh, consider liking the video, subscribing to the page, and check out JCTRusticHomestead.com or our Facebook page, JCT Rustic Homestead, especially if you're interested in the recipe. Thanks, guys.